So today we are going to start with Lagrangian of a system of particles. So if you remember last time what we had done, we defined Lagrangian in the simplest possible case. The simplest possible case was what? Lagrangian of a free particle. So in mechanics, we not only have one particles, two particles, n particles, free particles, Lagrangian of an open system, closed system. So you have to calculate Lagrangian in the widest possible sense. Lagrangian means what we want to do in earlier classes, you can have its analog as total energy of the system, which is kinetic as well as potential energy. So why here we are going to use Lagrangian is basically the fact that we are interested in the generalized coordinates. We can sometimes the quantities is going to move. So in simplest possible cases, it might have three components. But when we are taking generalized coordinates and we are using the basic Lagrangian equation of motion d by dt of dl by dx dot, taking velocity as a parameter. So you are choosing the Lagrangian according to the coordinates which is of interest, which simplifies for us lot of problems of mechanics. So this is the general philosophy. Now if the philosophy is like that, so we are not merely interested in the Lagrangian free particles. We are also interested in, for example, mechanics. You have studied two-body problem and reduced mass problem in Newtonian mechanics, three-body problem, n-body problem. So you any system, if you start with a simpler system, it's one particle or free particle. You can make the system more complicated. Previously we did Lagrangian with free particle. We can also have an interacting Lagrangian. So Lagrangian can be different levels and details. So how we can if we have a Lagrangian of a system of particles, and if we treat the system as closed in the simplest case. Why we are taking system closed? Just like in thermodynamics, an example is there. We take a, for example, insulated system. The heat externally is not going to affect the temperature inside the glass or the system. So if you want to take for the simplest cases, the way Lagrangian of a free particle is a simplest case, in the same way the another idealization is Lagrangian of a closed system. So the influence of environment on the Lagrangian of the particle, we don't take into consideration. In nature, just like a closed system is an idealization, you cannot have a perfectly closed system. So in the same, but why we are using these systems, these idealization in physics, we always start with simple problems. Then we go to complicated problem for our sake of simplicity. It's not necessarily that nature is closed or nature is simple. For our apni asani ke liye. So for our thing, we start with simplicity and see where Lagrangian of a simple system, where if you apply Lagrangian to simple problems, sometimes there can be limitations which we are discussing. Then we may go for another formalism, analytical formalism. So there are many formalisms as much as there is. So if there is a Lagrangian of a system of a particle, systems of particles. Not one particle, two particles, you can have n particles. So you can write it, and if it's a closed system in the conventional sense, the way you have been studying thermodynamics or so a system which is not affected by surroundings. That's the point. So Lagrangian of a system can be defined as system of particles can be defined as with A can vary from 1 and B can vary from. This is simply kind of defines potential energy. But left hand side, you can say the Lagrangian can be defined as an equation which we have discussed in the previous lecture. D by dl by d minus d by dt of dl by dx dot is equal to some constant of 0. So if it's like that, the another point which I want to say that the book also discusses that the instantaneous the interactions are instantaneous. What do you mean by that? It's an important point. So when we are taking the notion of time, which we previously said, it's isotropic. Space is isotropic, and the notion of time is homogeneous. It means the interactions are instantaneous. For example, if there's a particle here and mass m, so its effect on its neighboring particle will be at the same time. The interaction will not take some time वहाँ तक पहुँचने के लिए, मतलब उसी टाइम पे ये it will affect on that other particle, neighboring particles, corresponding particle. Otherwise, the postulates of Simon, this will break. For example, it will take some time for a field of a mass to appreciate interaction. The notion of time may vary from point to point. So it's also the Lagrangian of a free field. Not only it can be gravitational field, electromagnetic field. So if special theory of relativity is not, the notion of time is not instantaneous, then you have to. So the Galilean law of transformation of velocities. How can relate velocities of one frame with regard to, and there can be in principle infinite frames which can exist simultaneously from the Galilean transformation law, because the notion of time will not vary from frame to frame. So that's what I am saying. The Lagrangian of particle is instantaneous. The interaction is instantaneous, and which follows from our notion of homogeneity of time. The notion of time at every point is same. So if it is not possible, then it will lead to some contradiction. Even though you can construct a Lagrangian which will not be simultaneous, which will not correspond, which will, जब आप relativity में जाते हैं, relativistic Lagrangian is a general Lagrangian, it will have energies. So the notion of time will be homogeneous. But if you incorporate special theory of relativity, where the notion of time depends upon position, so you will incorporate that notion of time in that Lagrangian. We'll say relativistic Lagrangian. But we are here studying Lagrangian of classical mechanics. So I'll emphasize the word classical. So when you go to relativistic or when you go to quantum mechanics, so you can just have relativistic Lagrangian or relativistic formulation of mechanics or quantum mechanics or electrodynamics. The exercise is there. But the point to emphasize is, जो हमारा Lagrangian का definition है, that stands. How we can just the total energy of the system कैसे आप measure करते हैं? How we can say what's the Lagrangian of a system? What is it? So this is this much. And again, so if T is replaced by minus T, the Lagrangian is unchanged, and therefore so are the equations of motion. So if you change time, so just like ये बात आपने न्यूटन मैकेनिक्स में also moved like this, है ना, dt square. If denominator में t will be changed by minus t, it's correct, है ना, square. It will not. So forward direction of time or backward direction of time, things will not change. If you change the movement of time in forward axis or backward axis, the laws will remain or Lagrangian will not change. Okay. अब ये है कि it's not necessarily always the case. Maybe आप physics में quantum physics the Lagrangian invariance will be there for forward and backward direction time. That's a separate thing. So here in classical mechanics, Lagrangian remains invariant in whichever direction of time you are. For the notion of time, whether forward or backward, it should not change our notion of Lagrangian or understanding of Lagrangian anymore. What this is another point. इसी तरह if you write Lagrangian acid, if you want to write all the book, we will do it here. If you just write Lagrangian acid in the traditional sense, the Lagrangian acid, this is kinetic energy. The only fact is there is A and this A can be generalized coordinates. It's not simply that where you see VA, simple Vx, Vy, three components in okay? That's the only difference. If it is like that, and you just do this thing, d by dV xa dot c, you can write it like this. And you can write it ma VA dot com xa dot square minus 2 times R2 is equal to my d by dRA. We're writing this equation, but we'll substitute this pair here. 1 by ma xa dot square minus R1. इसमें क्या होगा? What will happen? है ना ये 1 by 2xa dot है. So it will be twice mxa dot. है ना? When you differentiate it, d by dx dot with mx dot square, so you get 2 आएगा. 2 will cancel with this 2, so it will be mx dot, or it will be mx double dot. mx double dot हो गया m dv by dt. You can also write it like m dv by, है ना? Rate of different acceleration. So it will also be equivalent. Since यहाँ numerator में है, its only coordinates, its velocity. So this first term will not contribute. So we just, this is another way of writing like this. So we have arrived at Newton's equations on the basis of mechanism of system of interacting particles. Where F normally Newton mechanics में है ना, you can also write F in terms of how change of potential. So it's how the Lagrangian way of doing the things is same as you are doing Newton's way of doing the things conceptually at least. अब इससे फर्क क्या है? What's the thing which is overriding here? So the overriding part which we are is incorporated there is basically if we write coordinates like this, x, because in subscript you have a. This a is not simply x, y, z. 1, 2, 3. It's more than that. That makes it important. X, a will be function of q1, q2, and qs. And xa dot is equal to we are redefining the coordinates, position coordinate and velocity coordinate in Lagrangian formalism like this. Yeah, this is the redefinition of this and this. If we redefine things in this way, where usually is sigma means k, The value of this will go from 1, 2, 3, 1 particle, 2 particles, 3 particles, n particles. You got the point. So ये है simply how ये है dq dot है ना, ये अगर आप इसमें करोगे ना dq dot by dq dot by dq dot ये आएगा क्रॉस बॉक्स है ना dq dot q k dot ये q कर जाएगा t आएगा वापस आ जाएगा x से. अब इसमें you can always write this thing like this. It contains the velocity of not one particle but a1 जितना आप लेंगे a1 a2 a3 this is another. So how we can define position and velocity in Lagrangian formula. अब इसी को further आप जो what we are writing Lagrangian of this in Lagrangian formula where traditionally if we are only 3 coordinate systems, we are only interested in writing like this: x3 dot square plus y dot square plus. This is traditional, simply Lagrangian for simple particle x, y, z coordinates. इसके components around 3, but it's not necessarily like that. So I will just recommend you. You should go for थोड़ा बहुत tensors, study of tensors. Study of tensors means what? How a given quantity, changes in space. How a given quantity changes. The other is how a given quantity changes in space. How a given quantity changes in time. How a given quantity can sometimes change in space time. अब जो क्वांटिटी स्पेस में चेंज होती है उसके कंपोनेंट्स भी चेंज होते हैं, ठीक है. अब जो सिंपल कंपोनेंट्स चेंज होते हैं, यू कैन हैव x, y, z. Now if they change not in 3 cross 3, you know, other ways of it, the way you study, you can write this way. EI QI dot 2 dot. So AI की इसमें आएगा A00, A01, A02, A10, A11, A12. Okay, QI Q. So different ways, different combinations of these particles, 2 particles. अगर 3 particle आएगा A, ठीक है. So they will change in space. This is because studying the creation of motion. Simple cases में आपको simple लगेगा, ठीक है. When the components become more, they are dependent upon velocities also, and those velocities के components भी how they vary in space. So in short form we write it like this for 2 particle systems. So the point is when you are going to apply things, it becomes more clear. So the यहाँ याद किए रखना है कि we are writing Lagrangian of the simple system can be written like here AIK is function of coordinates only. अब इसमें ये generalized function is still quadratic function of velocities. It's quadratic function of velocity. Quadratic means जो स्क्वायर ये है QI, ये वेलोसिटी है. अब चूंकि I ये है, अगर इसको आप ऐसे करोगे वेलोसिटी है ना, ये Q स्क्वायर है इसमें. Okay, so this is what you must see. अब now if we take another thing, if we take, so we have taken closed system. The system is insulated. Now, if you follow the book, the next example he is taking is that he is taking open system. One of the parts of the system is interacting with the other parts of the system, or the one part of the system has an explicit dependence on time. ठीक है, जैसे एक सिस्टम यहाँ पर है, दूसरा सिस्टम अभी क्लोज्ड में चलो whatever जो इस पार्टिकल का हाल है या क्लोज सिस्टम में जो इस स्टूडेंट का हाल है वो इस स्टूडेंट का हाल है. बट इफ सम एक्सटर्नली take an open system, it's not necessary when we take an open system. External system may have more velocity, less velocity with regard to what is existing, or internal system may be static. External system may be dependent, वो time के साथ चल रहा है, ठीक है, उसका explicit dependence और implicit dependence on time है. तो simplest case में if we take if we follow the rule, he says that let us now consider system A, which is not closed but interacts with another system B. Interacts with another system B, executing a given motion. I will say. ठीक है, अब इसमें ये करेंगे काम. We are going to take the system A and B. A plus, assuming that A plus B is closed. Now system A is interacting system. बट वो फिर है ये पहले हमने सिर्फ ओनली क्लोज सिस्टम. नाउ वी आर टेकिंग अ सिस्टम व्हिच इज इंटरैक्टिंग विद सम नेबरिंग सिस्टम व्हिच इज नॉट क्लोज, बट दोनों सिस्टम आर क्लोज सिस्टम जो ओवरआर्चिंग सिस्टम है, ठीक है. दैट these systems are not, they are open with regard to each other, but they might be closed with some whole system. That's it. That's why he is using the word A plus B. So Lagrangian of an system is taken out to be dA QA dot plus dB QB dot minus UQA. So UQA and QB means what? It's the potential energy of the two particles. It is the kinetic QB energy of particle A and its particle B. अब हम कह रहे हैं what we are saying is that the particle B in the system है, it may not necessarily be the way the particles work. The motion might have some explicit dependence on time. जिस सिस्टम के साथ वो इंटरेक्ट कर, बाहर से बच्चे आ रहे हैं, वो दे आर रनिंग. नाउ हमने इसको जो वॉल है ना, इसको पर्दा था ना, इसको उठा दिया, इट वाज इंसुलेटेड. Now you are allowing some another system to come, but maybe the particles which are coming from outside, they might have some explicit motion or dependent. They might be moving in time. They may not be at rest. This is what he is trying to say. And using that logic, he is omitting that term. Which is depends on time. So the logic he is using, the explicit dependence on time, he is omitting that in the language. Okay, just like हम कभी simple system को लेते हैं, पहले हमने closed system को लिया. Again, we are taking a system which is not closed, which is somewhat interacting. But again, we are making some modification. जो explicit dependence on time है, इस वाले लेकर we will not take this into consideration. अगर हम ऐसे लेंगे, then why the Lagrangian हमारे पास होगा है. अब ये कि why we are not taking this contribution, ठीक है? If it has explicit dependence on time, ठीक है? ये मुझे इसके कुछ QE dot minus QE. So this is Lagrangian of a two-particle system. ठीक है, ये है इसका. Thus the motion in the experiment is described by the only difference being that potential energy we have. इसमें ये कहना है कि the only difference is that potential energy we have explicit dependence on time. What do you mean that explicit dependence on time? Means when the particle is there, जो particle जब चल रहा है उसकी position इधर-उधर हो रही है, ठीक है? तो potential energy is by virtue of position or by virtue of configuration, ठीक है? When you change adjust particles तो उसकी coordinates change होती हैं, तो उस हिसाब से potential energy. तो if you redefine this thing, modulo that we have not taken this contribution, तो Lagrangian जो हमारा है, it will take the general form of Lagrangian will take this form. Or again, जो इसकी equation of motion है, which we have done previously, will come out like this. Okay. And if you have studied in your earlier classes and your potential energy is going to use you can also write it as ये F के बराबर. You can always write it. इसको यहाँ करो du. You integrate both sides. du F dot. So you can also write it. Now he is making some couple of remarks or couple of comments. Couple of remarks and couple of comments which he has made in the concluding paragraph. Just to read it twice, thrice. And there are some very interesting points here. अब ये है कि what we have done is Lagrangian of a system of particles. पहले हमने closed system के free particles, particle closed system, particle with an interacting system. But वहाँ भी हमने एक term को we froze that interaction. But जो real life में जो हमारी Lagrangian of the particles हैं वो ये नहीं है. जैसे बॉल चल रही है, पुली पे कोई चीज़ है. There are n number of motions which you might have studied in your earlier classes. How we apply Newton's first law or second. But now we have to do the same thing. How we have to apply Lagrangian of a given part. But before you are going to apply, हमको पहले वो Lagrangian we have to define it. The Lagrangian की definition को correspond करना चाहिए. Because once you go to real body, for example, आप push to चीज़ चलेगी यहाँ से वहाँ तक, तो it will smoothly move. It will have Newton's laws in absence of. But due to friction, it will stop somewhere. So the equation of motion जो है ना हमारी, it will not be applicable. उसका वहाँ काट आएगा. If the friction is negligible, we can still apply those Newtonian laws. The important point to emphasize is that if we are not changing using position, you are using velocity and the coordinate, the component. The important point which are going to use is that once we are constructing a given Lagrangian of a system, a simple Lagrangian or a complicated Lagrangian, how we can settle Lagrangian? How we can settle Lagrangian means there are some couple of points. Couple of points is which you often, apart from this book, you can see many books there that a system is there. How we can reduce our degrees of motion parameters. For example, अगर आपके पास bead है ना जो छोटे बच्चों, so you will constrain the motion only along x direction. So y direction and z direction are suppressed, है ना? So अगर आप वो है ना माल, उसको क्या कहते हैं, माल डालते हैं ना, अगर माल आप डालोगे उसमें आप एक डालोगे, है ना? If you will keep it only one dimension, you allow it to only move this way. अगर आप माल को गोल पे रखोगे तो इट विल कंस्ट्रेन टू मूव इट अलोंग एक्स एंड वाई अलोंग अ सर्कल. So how you are constraining a given motion of a particle such that जो हमारी degrees of freedom in principle they are n, and if it is a Cartesian coordinate system तो हमारे पास 3n degrees of freedom. But अगर हमारे पास Lagrangian system है, it's not, it may not be 3n, it's not necessarily 3n. So जो हमारे पास what are the ignorable coordinates, what are ignorable coordinates which are there, how can you ignore them? That's the point. Or how can जो हमारी जो this is also basically dl by dt minus dt of dl by basically this is a differential equation. So once you solve a differential equation, जिस तरह आप linear equation solve करते हैं, parameters को कैसे reduce करते हैं, plus minus करते हैं ऊपर a वो, ठीक है, number of variables is supposed to be less than the number of unknowns. So what is the equation of motion में है ना, what is the parameter which is to be known or which is to be found in a given equation of motion. जो आप कर रहे हैं ना earlier classes में, mass is given, velocity is given, what is the acceleration? Acceleration is given, mass is given, velocity after 5 minutes क्या है. So in the same way particle का now the Lagrangian may not be simple. It may not be closed, it may not be free Lagrangian, it may be interacting Lagrangian, it may not be one particle, two particle, n particle, it may be relativistic Lagrangian, all sorts of Lagrangian and all sorts of particles. How try to find the equation of motion? And what are the ignorable coordinates? What are the ignorable coordinates which will reduce the degrees of freedom? Which will reduce the, आप इसी को आप कहते हैं, आप अगर बुक्स में जाओगे these things are known as cycloronomic system, holonomic system, so on है. अब ये है कि you should always be conscious of the fact, for example अगर आप कोई friction कोई particle कर रहा है straight, so this friction comes, so equation of motion will break, you cannot no longer apply equation of motion. So how to कहाँ इक्वेशन ऑफ मोशन अप्लाई कर सकते हो, कैसे कर सकते हो, इट्स एन आर्ट और टेक्निक, यू लर्न इट. फॉर एग्जांपल जस्ट थोड़ा सा इस प्रॉब्लम के लिए बुक है which is emphasized by, so इसको तो so it will be emphasized by, for example there are various problems in the book. For example coplanar pendulum. Coplanar pendulum means what? एक तो pendulum आपने simple किया. Since आप what we have been doing in Newtonian mechanics is solving simple problem. Now you should be aware कि Lagrangian formulation का उसका added advantage क्या है? You should discover while solving like different Lagrangians. जितना आप में capacity होगी to see Lagrangian को पहले Lagrangian को कैसे सेट करना है, फिर Lagrangian को कैसे सॉल्व करना है. बट इफ यू नो हाउ टू सेट ए Lagrangian, हाफ योर प्रॉब्लम इज डन. ठीक है, प्रॉब्लम को कैसे सेट करना है, फिर प्रॉब्लम को कैसे करना है, उसमें जो यू हैव टू सेट अ प्रॉब्लम, यू हैव टू सी व्हाट आर द इग्नोरेबल कोऑर्डिनेट्स व्हिच विल रिड्यूस द डिग्रीज ऑफ फ्रीडम. आपकी हाफ द प्रॉब्लम इज सॉल्व. Then you just simply apply, solve the differential equation, you will get the answer. ठीक है, you will get the total energy of the system ऐसे आप समझिए. ठीक है, so for example ये couple of coplanar pendulum है, you just have like this mass है and M1, this is L1, L2. Coplanar pendulum means what? एक pendulum होगा एक ही प्लेन, एक है यहाँ पर, यहाँ से यहाँ तक, दूसरा है यहाँ से. So it has an angle phi 1. So it substitutes फाइव टू with regard to the vertical, यानी यहाँ से यहाँ से यहाँ तक जा रहा है। ये पेंडुलम है, दूसरा पेंडुलम है यहाँ से, ठीक है, एक ही प्लेन में। तो कोप्लेनर डबल पेंडुलम, तो सिंपल पेंडुलम की भी आप लैग्रेंज निकालो, आपके डबल पेंडुलम थिंग्स you have to see advantage of finding the Lagrange of it. Total energy of system is real plus. So for example, what you are going to do? पहले आप क्या निकालेंगे? Kinetic energy क्या है? T1 इसका पहले वाला, ठीक है? अब इसका मास है पेंडुलम का, so T1 will be equal to M1. So ये है ना, ये यहाँ से यहाँ तक, दिस इज x, ये है y, ठीक है? यहाँ से यहाँ x कितना डिस्टेंस है? x इज इक्वल टू L5 है ना, बाय सिंपल x, अगर ये फॉर स्मॉल एंगल्स x बाय दिस perpendicular this x by L is equal to tan phi. For small tan phi is equal to 5. So x is equal to L5. So x is equal to L5 base, so kinetic energy is x1 by 2 and x dot square. X dot के बदले आप लिखेंगे L5 dot square. So ये यहाँ भी L1 5 square. इस तरह पोटेंशियल एनर्जी क्या है? अभी पोटेंशियल एनर्जी mg L1 हाइट यहाँ से, बट L ये है स्लैश के साथ, तो 5 भी आएगा इसके साथ, कहाँ है L1 तो इसी तरह x2 क्या लिख दिया? अब ये x2 will be equal to, अब इसका x2 since ये है यहाँ से यहाँ तक, it will be x1 प्लस यहाँ से यहाँ तक x2, ठीक है? So x2 will be equal to L1 sin phi 1, ये L1 sin phi 1 प्लस L2 इस तरह y2 क्या आएगा? अब y2 से है यहाँ से cos phi, ये लेंथ, this length plus this length, ये sin phi आएगा, that will be cos phi, it will be L1 cos of phi 1 plus L2 cos of phi 2. Now you have to find, तो यहाँ तो हमने तो T will be equal kinetic energy for the 2 because m x2 dot square plus y2. अब थोड़ा सा आप जस्ट सिंप्लीफाई, x2 डॉट स्क्वायर ये इसका पहले इसका आएगा L1 कांस्टेंट है, sin phi का आएगा cos phi, बाहर आएगा phi 1 डॉट, यहाँ भी आएगा L2 sin phi 2, बाहर आएगा phi 2 डॉट, ठीक है? ये cos phi आएगा, बाहर आएगा phi 2 डॉट, phi 2 डॉट का अपना स्क्वायर आएगा ऊपर, हाँ this is. So here if you proceed to the just write this straight away, so इसको आप ये करना simplify. So it will be equal to, so substituting this x2 dot square from here and here उसका स्क्वायर, ये एक बार आप स्क्वायर करोगे या आप देखो यहाँ phi 1 डॉट आएगा ना, ये cos phi आएगा, ये sin phi आएगा, स्क्वायर, so L1 स्क्वायर बाहर आएगा, sin स्क्वायर प्लस cos स्क्वायर मान आएगा, phi बाहर निकलेगा. You have simplified it, it's 1 by 2 and L1 phi 1 square plus L2 phi 2 square, और अब ये है आपने, ये है ना L1 phi 1 L2 phi, इसका स्क्वायर दोनों का आएगा twice L1 L2 sin phi 1 sin phi 2, यहाँ से आएगा twice L1 L2 cos phi 1, उसको दोनों को सिंप्लीफाई करोगे तो आएगा cos a cos minus cos b, and if you find for you can write it like this. Five on five. So we can write the energy of this system P2 as or this matrix. अब इसी का लैग्रांजियन क्या निकालना है? लैग्रांजियन ऑफ द टोटल सिस्टम निकालना है। तो हमको निकालना है लैग्रांजियन ऑफ T1 plus T2 minus V1 plus V2, ठीक है? तो ये T2 का लैग्रांजियन है, ये T1 है। तो पहले T1 plus T2, इसी तरह V1 और V2 में सिर्फ ये आएगा, इसमें 5 तो ये आएगा एंड एडिशनल टर्म में, ठीक है? एंड टोटल को हमको ऐड करना है, एंड आफ्टर वी ऐड इट आई जस्ट टेक इट राइट नाउ। सो लैग्रांजियन ऑफ द सिस्टम इज L1 plus L1 square minus square. Cos of plus M1 plus M2. M1 plus M2. ये इसका नाम है M1 एक है, इसका अपना, इसका M1 है, फिर ये M2 है। So GL1 this potential is cos of phi. इसी तरह दूसरे का है GL2 cos of phi. So this is for simple case of Lagrangian of a coplanar. How we can find Lagrangian of a double planar? अब ये है कि you can always go to book. There are 5-6 solved examples. You do it yourself. And there are many problems in different Goldstein and जो भी books हैं. इसमें है it will come more out of practice. How to पहले क्या करना? What you have to do? You have to set the Lagrangian. Then see what are the ignorable coordinates. Whether the system is holonomic or cyclonomic, जो भी है. Then find the equation of Lagrange set. What a point. So this is the general view.